So a Pro Football Focus came out with something, and they were talking when Cam Newton signed yesterday. They said, there's this history in the NFL of good quarterbacks having huge years. And they had 5 different quarterbacks who had literally had what they call the all-time outlier seasons. One of them was RG3. One of them was Cam Newton in Carolina. One of them was Ryan Tannehill last year in Tennessee. One of them was Carson Palmer in 2015. They just pop, and everything lines up, and they pop. You should not, they argue, define a quarterback on his pop year. I remember a couple years ago, Matt Ryan was having a great year with Kyle Shanahan, and it just all lined up. And literally, the nation went crazy. And I'm like, I like Matt Ryan. But I always had this theory about real estate agents, really any of us. If you're a real estate agent and you've done it 10 years, take away your worst year, probably your first year on the job. Take away that year, and then take away your best year where the economy was great and you sold a $6 million home because it was a friend of a family. And the remaining 8 years, that's what you are. Take out the highs and the lows of my career. I've probably had a bad year. I've probably had one great year. The rest of it is my career. That's what on average you get. Every athlete may have like LeBron, take out his rookie year and take out an MVP year. He's still the first or second best basketball player I've ever seen in my life, right? So I don't get into this, pop. That's why I always said Cam's had one great year. Then it's been a lot of 500 football. All right. Tannehill, what did I tell you? I wouldn't have signed him in Tennessee to that big deal. I don't buy it. RG3, I never thought was as good as Andrew Luck, but he had a pop year because he had Shanahan coaching him and a good running game. So I don't buy into this. So it leads to the discussion. Everybody thinks I don't like Cam. Where would I put Cam in the NFL? In the AFC quarterbacks, because that's where he's going to play now. That's going to be 90% of his games are going to be in the AFC. He goes from the NFC in warm weather to the AFC now New England cold weather. Where would I put Cam in terms of starting quarterbacks? Now, my only criteria on this, it's not career stats. I'm not interested in that stuff. What is your current situation? What is your coach? What are your weapons? What is your protection? What is your current situation? All things in, I'm not going to, Phillip Rivers is not as good now as he was 7 years ago. I'm not going to count his career. Starting tomorrow, who are the 10 best quarterbacks? Where do I rank them? All things in on your current situation today. Here we go. Number one. This is the easy one, Patrick Mahomes. Not a big argument here. A defined pocket passer. He can move. He also has the best play designer, arguably, in the NFL, and Andy Reid. Highest career passer rating in NFL history at 110. He's got a big arm sometimes, takes a little risk, but he's everything you want. I mean, he is. They're going to be a Super Bowl favorite as long as he has a decent offensive line and Andy Reid is there for, 9 of the next 12 years. So he's what everybody's trying to be. He's Aaron Rodgers 6 years ago before the injuries. He's what everybody wants. Number two, Lamar Jackson. I could argue there are defensive coordinators. If you told them who would they rather face, they know they'd lose to Mahomes, but they could be humiliated by Lamar Jackson. He's just different. There's nobody else like him. He's getting better from his senior year in college to his rookie year to last year. He's made big leaps. He's the youngest quarterback to ever win the MVP at 22 years old, and they're still not paying him anything, and he is now surrounded by nothing but dudes. So he's number 2.
Number 3.
Deshaun Watson. Listen, running for his life, 34 touchdowns last year. I'm done talking. 34 touchdowns last year. Some of them rushing with a bad O-line. This is a guy that had 300-plus yards passing in a football game and a playoff game, 3 touchdowns, no giveaways, and lost. It's the best line for any quarterback ever that's lost a playoff game. So Deshaun's 3rd.
Number 4.
I'll go with Ben because the last time I saw him play, he led the NFL in passing yards. He had over 5,000 yards, and he's still big and strong, and they have a great O-line, unbelievable front 7 defensively, plus Minkah Fitzpatrick, good GM. So I like a lot of what he's surrounded by, but I think this morning, the last time I saw him play and what he's surrounded by, I'd put him 4, but not necessarily too far ahead of number 5.
Number 5.
I'm going to go Josh Allen. I think he has the great young coach. He's got the Kyle Shanahan on defense, Sean McDermott. They also upgraded their offensive line last year. They have really done a good job. They got him Cole Beasley in the slot, got him John Brown, and then they went and got him Stephon Diggs, who may be the second best deep threat in the NFL right now. Antonio Brown was, but now I think it's D-Hop in Arizona and him. Now, Josh Allen, led him to a 10-win season, first time since the 90s. He's raw. But I saw some breakthrough moments last year. And remember, he has not yet kind of been allowed to show off his arm. You know, he's the only quarterback in the NFL last year with 0 completions where the ball traveled over 35 yards. They didn't have any deep threat. That's not really what they do. So now, another off season, he got a deep threat. That's the best defense, in my opinion, in the AFC with Baltimore. Next.
Number 6.
An inch behind him, Cam Newton. So I put Cam here. Now, he's never had... Josh Allen's had no injuries, and Josh Allen right now has a younger defense, a better deep threat than Cam. Cam's got no tight end in New England with any NFL experience. He does not have a deep threat. I think it's a really limited offensive team that has to score on 11-play drives. And I think that's asking a lot of any quarterback. It's what infuriated Tom Brady last year. Now, in the last couple of years, Cam's lost a lot. Some of it's injuries. Some of it is, he just wasn't good enough. But I would put him 6 behind Josh Allen. And I think it's close. With Cam, I get history. With Josh, I get no injuries, and I think a better defense. Well, it was, but last year, Buffalo's defense was better than New England. It just took about 8 weeks to figure it out.
Number 7.
Okay, Baker Mayfield. Now, again, I like Sam Darnold more than Baker, but my criteria for this is based on the current situation. 2 great receivers, 2 great backs, 2 very good tight ends. They solved their tackle issue. I would be shocked if Baker does not rebound. Now, I don't buy into this. He's going to get MVP votes. That's a big narrative night right now. There's just too many good quarterbacks out there. I would be shocked if they don't have a winning record. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't make the playoffs. I would be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. But I do think there's going to be more humility with Baker this year. I think Stefanski's going to hold his feet to the fire. And let's be honest, he's just going to have better protection. I mean, Cleveland was a good center and nonsense on the offensive line. Now they got a good center and 2 legitimate tackles. Jedrick Wills from Alabama, I think, was the best tackle in the draft, and they got him.
Number 8.
That's Sam Darnold. Now he's got a bunch of new parts. He doesn't have nearly the wide receivers of Baker or the running backs or the tight ends, but I think he's special. I think he's bigger than Baker, stronger than Baker, more athletic than Baker. I think he's a really special player. Last year, at the end of the year, it's remarkable. He went 6-2 last 8 games, 15 TDs, 4 picks, and I mean working with lawn chairs and deck furniture, working with nothing. I don't even think the coaching staff likes each other there. So I like Darnold more than Baker. I think if you gave Darnold Baker's players and Baker Darnold's, you'd see what I believe to be true. But I think Sam has some limitations this year just based on what he's surrounded by, which is a bunch of new parts on the O-line.
Number 9.
Phillip Rivers. Again, this is perfect for him. He's not athletic and he throws too many picks. That jersey's not going to get dirty this year. He's going to have oodles of time to throw. The Colts have an underrated defensive front and underrated running game. I think this is the best fit for him. I just think he's really limited. He feels like Eli Manning's last 2 years, where he'll have games and moments. I think he's a fairly limited athlete at this point. But to his credit and to Indy's credit, this is where he should play. I mean, this is like stand back and throw some darts, and I think he'll be fairly productive. They added Michael Pittman in the draft, who I love from USC, and Jonathan Taylor, the running back. So he's got some interesting weapons.
Number 10.
I would say Drew Lock of Denver. Now, I'm much higher on Drew Lock than anybody else. I think he's got a big arm. I think they have really done a nice job as an organization. He's got 2 backs, multiple receivers. Their wide receiving core, if it's as good as I think, could end up being one of the top 3 or 4 wide receiving cores in football. They got Judy out of Alabama. Now, you're going to say, what about Ryan Tannehill? That's Ryan Tannehill is recency bias. He's a 500 quarterback in his career. Well, what about Derek Carr? I think Derek Carr and John Gruden have issues. What about Tyrod Taylor, who I like? I don't know if he's starting by December. So those guys were my 10. I think Drew Lock is going to be, and I've said this, I think he's my pop quarterback this year. Every year, the last 4 years, there's been a second-year guy that's popped. It was Wentz, it was Lamar, it was Mahomes. I think Drew Lock is the pop guy this year. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.